In the Catholic Church, modernism refers to theological opinions expressed during the late 19th and early 20th centuries, but with influence reaching into the 21st century, which are characterized by a break with the past. Modernist Catholics form an amorphous group. The term appears in the 1907 encyclical Pascendi dominici gregis, in which Pope Pius X condemns modernism as embracing of every heresy. Modernists, and what are now termed neo-modernists, generally do not openly use this label in describing themselves, although traditionalist Catholics continue to use the term. Modernists came to prominence in French and British intellectual circles and, to a lesser extent, in Italy. The modernist movement was influenced by Protestant theologians and clergy, starting with the Tübingen school in the mid-19th century. Some modernists, however, such as George Tyrrell, S.J., would disagree with this. Tyrrell saw himself as loyal to the unity of the Church, and disliked liberal Protestantism. Forms of modernism. Modernism in the Catholic Church was the subject of the encyclical Pascendi dominici gregis of Pope Pius X. Modernism may be described under the following broad headings: a rationalistic approach to the Bible. The rationalism that was characteristic of the Enlightenment took a proto-materialistic view of miracles and of the historicity of biblical narratives. This approach sought to interpret the Bible by focusing on the text itself as a prelude to considering what the Church Fathers had traditionally taught about it. This method was readily accepted by Protestants and Anglicans. It was the natural consequence of Martin Luther's sola scriptura doctrine, which asserts that Scripture is the highest authority, and that it can be relied on alone in all things pertaining to salvation and the Christian life. Secularism and other Enlightenment ideals. The ideal of secularism can be briefly stated as follows: the best course of action in politics and other civic fields is that which flows from a common understanding of the good by various groups and religions. By implication, church and state should be separated, and the laws of the latter, for example that forbidding murder, should cover only the common ground of thought systems held by various religious groups. From the secularists' point of view, it was possible to distinguish between political ideas and structures that were religious and those that were not. But Catholic theologians in the mainstream argued, following Thomas Aquinas, that such a distinction was not possible. All aspects of society were to be organized with the final goal of heaven in mind. However, the humanist model, which had been in the forefront of intellectual thought since the Renaissance and the scientific revolution, was directly opposed to the Thomist view. Modern philosophical systems. Philosophers such as Kant and Bergson inspired the mainstream of modernist thought. One of the latter's main currents attempted to synthesize the vocabularies, epistemologies, metaphysics and other features of certain modern systems of philosophy with Catholicism in much the same way as the scholastic order had earlier attempted to synthesize Platonic and Aristotelian philosophy with the Church's teaching. Theological rebellion in contradistinction or opposition to the Church's official policies, notably among Jesuits and the Leadership Conference of Women Religious. As more naturalistic and scientific studies of history appeared, a way of thinking called historicism arose, which suggested that ideas are conditioned by the age in which they are expressed. Thus modernists generally believed that most dogma teachings of the Church were novelties which arose because of specific circumstances obtaining at given points in its history. At the same time, rationalism and literary criticism reduced the possible role of the miraculous, so that the philosophical systems in vogue at the time taught, among other things, that the existence of God could never be known. Theology, formerly Queen of the Sciences, was dethroned, and it was argued that religion must primarily be caused by, and thus be centered on, the feelings of believers. This argument bolsters the impact of secularism by weakening any position supporting the favoring of one religion over another in a given state, on the principle that if no scientific and reasonable assumption of its truth can be made, society should not be so organized as to privilege any particular religion. Evolution of dogma. The final overall teaching of modernism is that dogmata can evolve over time, not only in their expression but also in the substance, rather than remaining the same in substance for all time. This postulate was what made modernism unique in the history of heresies in the Church. Previously, a heretic would either claim that he was right and the rest of the Church was wrong because he had received a new revelation from God, or that he had understood the true teaching of God which had previously been understood but was later lost. Both of these scenarios almost inevitably led to an organizational separation from the Church or the offenders being ejected from it. Using the new idea that doctrines evolve, it was possible for the modernist to believe that both the old teachings of the Church and his new, seemingly contradictory teachings were correct. Each group had its time and place. This system allows almost any type of new belief which the modernist in question might wish to introduce, and for this reason modernism was labeled by Pope Pius X as the synthesis of all heresies, the evolution of dogma theory. Much in the manner of Luther's theory of salvation, sola fide allows for a constant updating of standards of morality. The phrase sola fide derives from Pangelingua gloriosi corporis mysterium, a Eucharistic hymn by St. Thomas Aquinas. AC sensus deficit, ad firmandum cor sincerum, sola fides sufficit. Since majority moral standards shifted heavily during the 20th century, Catholics not accepting the theory were placed in the position of having to abstain from receiving communion if they wished to engage in some of the actions of some of their fellow religionists. As for the others, the theory that dogma can change enabled them, as they saw it, to update Catholic morality while not being concerned with possible contradictions. Official response. In 1893, Pope Leo XIII's encyclical Providentissimus Deus affirmed in principle the legitimacy of biblical criticism only insofar as it was pursued in a spirit of faith. In 1903, Leo established a pontifical biblical commission to oversee those studies and ensure that they were conducted with respect for the Catholic doctrines on the inspiration and interpretation of Scripture. Pope Pius X, who succeeded Leo, was the first to identify modernism as a movement. He frequently condemned both its aims and ideas, and was deeply concerned by the ability of modernism to allow its adherents to go on believing themselves strict Catholics while having an understanding markedly different from the traditional one as to what that meant. In July 1907, the Holy Office published the document Lamentabili Sane Exitu, a sweeping condemnation which distinguished 65 propositions as modernist heresies. In September of the same year, Pius X promulgated an encyclical Pascendi dominici gregis, followed in 1910 by the introduction of an anti-modernist oath to be taken by all Catholic bishops, priests and academic teachers of religion. To ensure enforcement of these decisions, Monsignor Umberto Bernini organized, through his personal contacts with theologians, an unofficial group of senses who would report to him those thought to be teaching condemned doctrine. This group was called the Sodalicium Pianum, i.e., Fellowship of Pious, which in France was known as La Sapinia. Its frequently overzealous and clandestine methods often hindered rather than helped the Church in its combat with modernism. In the period between World War II and the Cold War, Reginald Garrigou Lagrange, P. was the torchbearer of orthodox Thomism against modernism. Garrigou Lagrange, who was a professor of philosophy and theology at the Pontifical University of St. Thomas Aquinas Angelicum, is commonly held to have influenced the decision in 1942 to place the privately circulated book Une école de théologie, Le Seul Choix by Marie-Dominique Chenuot, P. on the Vatican's Index of Forbidden Books, as the culmination of a polemic within the Dominican order between the Angelicum supporters of a speculative scholasticism and the French Revival Thomists who were more attentive to historical hermeneutics, such as Yves Congarau. P. Congar's Creations des Sonnes was also suspected of modernism because its methodology derived more from religious experience than from syllogistic analysis. Since Pope Paul VI, most church authorities have largely dropped the term modernism, preferring instead in the interest of precision to call beliefs such as secularism, liberalism or relativism by the several names. The older term has however remained current in the usage of many traditionalist Catholics and conservative critics within the Church. Notable Catholic modernists. Major figures: Alfred Loisy, a French priest whose L'Evangile et l'Église sparked the crisis. He was excommunicated Vitandus in 1908. George Tyrrell, expelled from the Jesuits in 1906 for his views. Maud Petra, English nun, close friend of Tyrrell, and a participant in the modernist movement as well as one of its first historians and critics. Ernesto Buonaiuti, who is a scholar of the history of Christianity and of religious philosophy, was a leader in the Italian modernist movement. Pierre Battifolle, historian of Dogma. Less public modernists: Louis Duchesne, historian of the Church. Henry Bremond, Friedrich von Hugel, Bibliography. Althaus, Joseph L. The Liberal Catholic Movement in England, The Rambler and its Contributors, 1848–1864. London, Burns and Amp, eds. Amerio Romano. Iota Unum, A Study of Changes in the Catholic Church in the 20th Century. Kansas City, Missouri, Sarter House. ISBN 9780963903211. Retrieved 8 June 2016. Botti, Alfonso, Cirato, Rocco eds. Il modernismo tra cristianità e secolarizzazione, atti del Convegno Internazionale di Urbino, 1–4 October 1997. Studi e Testi, 6. 420. ISBN 9780839205452. Retrieved 8 June 2016. Botti, Alfonso, Cirato, Rocco, Biagioli, Ilaria eds. Romolo Murray e I Marismi in Italia e in Europa Cent'anni dopo, atti del Convegno Internazionale di Urbino, 24–26 September 2001. Studi e Testi, 7. 420. ISBN 9780839206817. Retrieved 8 June 2016. Bourmod, Dominique. 100 Years of Modernism, A History of Modernism, Aristotle to the Second Vatican Council. Kansas City, Missouri, Angelus Press. ISBN 9781892331434. OCLC 72871306. Retrieved 8 June 2016. Dalberg Acton, John Emerick Edward, Figgis, John Neville, Lawrence, Reginald Vere eds. The History of Freedom and Other Essays. London, Macmillan & Co. Limited. Retrieved 8 June 2016. Fawkes, Alfred. Studies in Modernism. London. Forgotten Books. OCLC 3,307,790. Retrieved 8 June 2016. Gauthier, Pierre. Newman A. Blondel. Tradition et développement du dogme. Cogitatio Fide. 147. Editions du Cerf. ISBN 9782204028547. Retrieved 8 June 2016. Hales, Edward Elton Young. The Catholic Church in the Modern World, A Survey from the French Revolution to the Present. Image Books, 95. Garden City, New York. Doubleday. Retrieved 8 June 2016. Hales, Edward Elton Young. Pio Nono, A Study in European Politics and Religion in the 19th Century. London, Aaron Spottiswoode. Retrieved 8 June 2016. Izquierdo, ce acute sar. Blondel Weiler Crisis Modernista Analysista Historia y Dogma. Colección Teológica de la Universidad de Navarra. 71. Pamplona Editions Universidad de Navarra. ISBN 9788431310998. Retrieved 8 June 2016. Jurdock Darrell, ed. Catholicism Contending with Modernity, Roman Catholic Modernism and Anti-Modernism in Historical Context, Cambridge, Cambridge University Press. ISBN 9780521770712. Retrieved 8 June 2016. Loom, Thomas Michael. Liberal Catholicism, Reformed Catholicism, Modernism, A Contribution to a New Orientation in Modernist Research. Tübinger Theologische Studien. 14. Mainz. Matthias Grunewald Verlag. ISBN 3786706,603. McPenningen, Jürgen. Nouvelle Théologie, New Theology, Inheritor of Modernism, Precursor of Vatican II. New York, Bloomsbury Publishing. ISBN 9780567299918. OCLC 676,696,271. Retrieved 8 June 2016. Cf. Kerr, Fergus. Shock of the New. The Tablet. D-Sales Media Group Inc. p. 24. Retrieved 8 June 2016. O'Connell, Marvin Richard. Critics on Trial, An Introduction to the Catholic Modernist Crisis. Washington, D.C. Catholic University of America Press. ISBN 97808132008. Retrieved 8 June 2016. Polar, Emile. Histoire, Dogme et critique dans la crise moderniste. Religion et société acutes, 67. Tournai, Casterman. ISBN 9782203290563. Retrieved 8 June 2016. Cinque Guimara S. Attila. In the Murky Waters of Vatican II. Eli Lama Sabachthani. 1. Tan Books and Publishers. ISBN 9780895556363. Retrieved 8 June 2016. Virgoli, René, Blondel et le modernisme, la philosophie de l'action et les sciences religieuses, 1896–1913. Paris, Editions du Cerf. ISBN 9782204015097. Retrieved 8 June 2016.